There is something you are afraid of right now. Maybe you know exactly what it is. The conversation you keep avoiding. The risk you will not take. The version of your life you keep almost choosing but never quite do. Or maybe it is quieter than that. A low hum of unease you carry around without a name for it. Something that sits just beneath the surface of ordinary days and makes certain moments feel heavier than they should. You call it fear. And you probably think it is a problem. But what if the fear you carry today is not a flaw in you? What if it is a message? One that was written long before you were born, by people who face things so much darker, and so much more real than anything you will ever encounter. And what if understanding where that message came from changes not just how you feel about fear, but what you are able to do with it? Because ancient humans knew something about fear that you have completely forgotten. And it is time to remember it. Let us go back roughly 100,000 years. A small group of early humans is moving through dense forest at dusk. There are perhaps 30 of them. They have no weapons beyond sharpened stone. No shelter beyond what they can build before dark. No map. No guarantee of food. And all around them, in the growing shadows, are things that want to eat them. Lions. Leopards. Hyenas. Snakes. The dark itself. In that world, fear was not a weakness. It was the most valuable tool your ancestors possessed. A single moment of inattention, a single failure to notice the rustle in the grass, or the silence where birds should be, could end a life. Could end a bloodline. Fear was the alarm system that kept the species alive, and it was ruthlessly efficient. The humans who felt fear deeply, who responded to it fast, who let it override every other instinct in a moment of danger, those were the humans who survived. And survived. And survived again. Until eventually, after hundreds of thousands of years of brutal selection, you were born. Carrying every one of those same alarm systems inside you. This is what neuroscientist Joseph LeDoux spent decades mapping at New York University. His research identified a small almond-shaped cluster of neurons deep in the brain called the amygdala, and what he found there reshaped how science understands fear entirely. The amygdala does not wait for you to think. It does not pause for context. It does not ask whether the threat is real or imagined, ancient or modern, physical or emotional. The moment it detects anything that resembles danger, a sharp noise, a sudden movement, a social rejection, a critical email, it fires. In milliseconds. Before your conscious mind has even registered that anything happened. LeDoux called this the low road. A direct neural pathway from your senses straight to the amygdala, bypassing the thinking brain entirely. The result is that your body is already responding to fear before you know you are afraid. Your heart rate climbs. Your pupils dilate. Your muscles tense. Stress hormones flood your bloodstream. All of it happens automatically, involuntarily, in a fraction of a second. And here is what makes this so important to understand. That system was calibrated for the Pleistocene. For the forest at dusk. For the lion in the grass. It was not calibrated for a performance review, or a first date, or a creative project you are terrified to share with the world. But it cannot tell the difference. To your amygdala, a critical comment from a stranger on the internet activates the same ancient circuitry that once warned your ancestors of a predator in the dark. The scale is completely different. The response is identical. This is why fear feels so physical. So overwhelming. So impossible to reason with. Because it was never designed to be reasoned with. It was designed to move you. Fast. Before thought had a chance to slow you down. But the story does not end there. Because ancient humans knew something else about fear that modern life has made almost impossible to see. In 2006, anthropologist Daniel Fessler at UCLA published research examining fear responses across dozens of different cultures around the world. What he found was striking. In every culture studied, without exception, communal fear shared openly within a group, produced a measurable increase in social bonding, in cooperation, in collective action. The experience of being afraid together did not weaken groups. It strengthened them. It pulled people toward each other rather than apart. For your ancestors, fear was never a private experience to be hidden or overcome alone. It was a signal to the group. It was the thing that made 30 people move together, think together, protect each other. The individual who felt fear and showed it was not weak. They were performing a critical social function. They were saying, pay attention. Something here matters. We need each other right now. Think about what that means for the way you carry fear today. Alone. In silence. As if it were a shameful secret rather than the most human signal you possess. In 1998, psychologist James Pennebaker, at the University of Texas, conducted a series of studies that would quietly change how psychology understands emotional suppression. He asked participants to write about their deepest fears and anxieties in detail, without filtering or editing, for just 15 minutes a day over 4 consecutive days. The results were remarkable. Participants who expressed their fears showed measurable improvements in immune function, lower cortisol levels, fewer visits to the doctor in the following months, fewer symptoms of anxiety and depression. Participants who were asked to write about neutral topics showed none of these effects. Simply giving fear a name, giving it language, giving it a witness, even if that witness was only a blank page, changed its biology inside the body. The fear did not disappear. But it transformed. From a formless threat into something the brain could begin to process and file. Your ancestors did not suppress fear. They could not afford to. In a world where every threat was immediate and physical, suppressing the fear response was not stoicism. It was suicide. Fear was meant to be felt fully, expressed immediately, and then acted upon together. The modern instruction to simply push through fear, to pretend it is not there, to hide it and keep moving, that is not ancient wisdom. That is a very new and very costly mistake. And then there is the most counterintuitive thing ancient humans understood about fear that we have almost entirely lost. In 2012, psychologist Kelly McGonigal, at Stanford University, stood at a TED conference and shared data that changed how she practiced psychology. She had been studying the relationship between stress and health for a decade and had found something she could not explain. People who experienced high levels of stress were indeed more likely to face health problems. But only if they believed that stress and fear were harmful. People who experienced identical levels of stress, but believed those feelings were their body preparing them to rise to a challenge, those people showed no increased health risk at all. In some measures, they were healthier than people with low stress. The physical response to fear and the physical response to excitement are almost identical. Elevated heart rate, faster breathing, heightened alertness, sharpened senses. The difference between fear and excitement is almost entirely the story you tell about what those sensations mean. McGonigal found that when people reframed their fear response as the body mobilizing, as a signal that something important was happening and they were being prepared to meet it, they performed better under pressure. They made clearer decisions. They recovered faster. They were more likely to seek support from others rather than withdrawing alone. This is not a trick. This is biology. And your ancestors lived it without needing a Stanford study to explain it. Because in a world where every fear was attached to a real and immediate threat, there was no gap between the fear signal and the action it demanded. Fear and readiness were the same thing. You felt afraid because something important was about to happen. And you were right. Here is what that means for you. The fear you feel before the difficult conversation is not telling you to avoid it. It is telling you that the relationship matters. The fear you feel before the risk is not telling you the risk is wrong. It is telling you that what is on the other side is worth protecting. The fear you feel before you share something you made, or say something honest, or try something you might fail at, that fear is not a warning to stop. It is the oldest signal in the human nervous system. It means something real is happening. It means you are awake. You have been taught to treat fear as an obstacle between you and the life you want. But for 300,000 years, fear was the very thing that moved your ancestors toward what mattered most. It sharpened them. It connected them. It told them, moment by moment, what deserved their full attention and their full effort. Joseph LeDoux spent decades studying the amygdala and concluded that you cannot silence fear. The low road fires before thought has a chance to intervene. But what you can do, what your ancestors did, what Kelly McGonigal's research proves, what James Pennebaker's studies confirm, is change your relationship to it. Not by pretending it is not there. Not by powering through it in silence. But by doing what humans have always done. By naming it. By letting it be witnessed. By understanding what it is actually telling you. Your ancestors did not conquer fear. They listened to it. They shared it. They moved with it rather than against it. And in doing so, they crossed every continent, survived every extinction event, and built every civilization that has ever existed on this planet. The fear you feel right now is the same signal that kept your entire bloodline alive. It is not your enemy. It never was. It is the most ancient form of intelligence you possess. And the question was never how to get rid of it. The question was always what it is trying to tell you. Listen.